Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Ryan Weiner podcast, where we talk about all things having to do with the experience of existence. Why are we here? What are we doing here? All that good stuff. So, if that's something you're into, please hit that like button and the thumbs up and all that good jazz and subscribe. You wouldn't be here if you didn't like that kind of stuff, so it's all the more reason to stick around and get updated. Today, my guest is the wonderful Miss Betty Guadagno. And Betty is a near-death experiencer and a recovery person from the community as well. And she has an absolutely wonderful, uplifting story to tell. So I'm just going to let her take it from here. Go for it, Betty. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for creating conscious space. It's so necessary. So I really appreciate your service to humanity. And I'll just dive right in. So I need to paint a picture of my life before my experience in order to explain the deep contrast within the experience. So Cliff Notes version and major trigger warning. But my life before my experience was depraved and it was traumatized and it was full of malicious energy. I was a traumatized person who traumatized other people. That's who I was. I grew up in a super chaotic, dysfunctional home, lots of sexual trauma as a small child, emotional, physical abuse. My parents both committed suicide due to their own drug addiction when I was in my early 20s, and that really shaped my life in this very distorted way. I thought that I had to carry out the legacy of my family, and because my family legacy was to use drugs and die by using drugs, that's what my mission became. And then I did. I died. I died from using drugs. And I overdosed in March of 2019, and my whole life transformed after that overdose. At first, I didn't know what was happening to me because I was a militant atheist and spiritual awakening was not part of my scope. Had never even heard those words before. So, the first part of my experience, the best way that I can describe it was like a life review. And it took me years to figure out that's what it was. I just started feeling every emotion that's ever existed on earth. I started to experience every experience that's ever happened on earth. And in my personal experience, I was seeing all the harm that I had caused other people. I was in active addiction for 20 years. You don't stay on drugs for 20 years without hurting a couple of people. And I
Hmm.
just had like dozens and dozens of people's faces and emotions coming into my awareness, just flashing before me, letting me see how much harm and how much pain I had caused. And then I experienced my parents' suicide from their perspective, as well as my own as a grieving daughter. But I literally watched the whole scene of what went down with them that day. I watched them make the decision together. I watched them write the notes. I watched them drive to the store to pick up their prescriptions from the pharmacy, the prescriptions that they used to intentionally overdose. I felt the pain, the ocean of anguish that they were drowning in. And I thought after I saw my parents in this life review, I just assumed that I too was dead because I was seeing dead people and I was like, "Oh shit, I died." And it's not black nothingness, which is what my atheist mind thought. It was actually much much worse. And so I guess I thought that I was kind of trapped in hell.
Hmm.
And so I sort of gave up. I spiritually gave up and I just thought, "Oh shit, like this is what death is and it is really terrible." And then I started to hear my father's voice and he just kept chanting at me, "You are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe." And it sort of morphed into every masculine energy that I've ever had in my life. But his voice was very clear to me. And I didn't believe those words, but I trusted his voice. And so I started to follow that voice. And as I did, I landed in the light of the experience, which was very, very different and very, very welcome. And in my light experience, it felt like reunion. I mean, it felt like home, but I wish that home was a more encapsulating word because it doesn't, there's no way to like describe it in human language. It's not home like where all of your stuff is. It's this it's this puzzle piece that all of a sudden is glued back together. My
Yeah.
whole life, I felt like all of the experiences that I was going through, they were all fracturing me into these tiny shards of glass. And when I entered into the light, it was like this beautiful glue that made me into this amazing mosaic, like all these different colors of shattered glass, but it was all glued together in the light. And it looked like I landed on the deck of a spaceship. It looked just like the
Okay.
Gravitron ride from Carnivals, like a silver saucer. And it felt like
Uh-huh.
I came out of the side of one of the walls. And all around me were thousands of other souls. And we were being told in this space that we were the bravest volunteers, that we had all made a decision to volunteer to come to Earth for the Great Awakening, for the transformation of consciousness. And I have no idea what's going on in this space, but I definitely know that I am a part of it. I didn't question it. I had massive
Right.
acceptance. Yes, I'm being told that I'm part of the Great Awakening, that I'm a brave volunteer. Yes, I accept that. Yes, I know that. And then my awareness shifted over to another scene, and I found myself in front of a table of beings, and they didn't tell me who they were, but again, massive acceptance. I didn't have to question, who are you? What are you? Where am I? None of that came into my awareness. I just knew. I knew that these beings were in charge of, I don't know if they're in charge of all of creation or if they're just in charge of me, but I could feel the connection that we had to each other. We knew each other. And they were thumbing through this gigantic book on top of this really crappy plastic card table.
Okay.
And but the book was beautiful and ornate, and it was red velvet and gold. And they were just thumbing through casually, and they were saying, "Hey, it's good to see you. You're not here to stay. You're only here for information."
Hmm.
And I'm totally dismissive of this idea. I'm like, "You have got the wrong girl, because I live here now. I love it. It feels so good." And they said, no, no, just information. And then they shift me over to another scene where my information starts to come in. And basically, my information was that they showed me that I had chosen everything that's ever happened in my life, that I made these decisions before life in a pre birth planning process to pick every ounce of adversity, every moment to overcome, every partner. I picked my parents, I picked everything. And they picked me. It was like all of these connections. And the way that it came through in my imagery was I was running through the aisles of a spiritual supermarket, and I had this big empty grocery cart, and lining the walls of the grocery store aisles were these gigantic cereal boxes. And every cereal box had a life experience on it. And I was grabbing everything: addiction, sexual trauma. I got the variety pack of that one, homelessness, prostitution. I picked my parents, all the challenges that would come along with that particular family line. I chose every ounce of everything that I had experienced in my life. And in this moment of being downloaded with this awareness, it felt like I just completely snapped out of my victim mentality. And I rose into this energy as a divine co creator of my experience. Things had no longer happened to me, they actually happened for me, for the evolvement of my soul. And I don't have like some carefully constructed one liner about why a soul would choose a life experience of childhood sexual trauma,
Right.
or picking a life experience of addiction or degradation or prostitution or homelessness. I don't have some great answer, but I just have a deep knowing that I did choose it. And I'm not going to claim this truth for everybody, although
Hmm.
it probably is true for everybody. But I can at least claim it in my own life. And so once I was downloaded with this awareness, I felt so free, so free. And I went back in front of the table of beings, and I was like on my knees in gratitude, crying out, "Oh my God, this is the information I've been looking for my whole life. Thank you so much. I feel complete now. I feel like everything that's ever happened to me makes so much sense." I'm still not going to be returning to Earth though, because that place is a fucking car wreck. But this is it. Like this place, I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
love the info. It's so cool. I'm going to watch this whole Great Awakening show from up here. It
Yeah.
sounds like it's
I'll
going to
stay
be
up here in your
lit.
plug.
Yes,
Fine.
yes, yes. They have some kind of streaming service up there, I'm sure. It's like Earth TV or whatever.
Yeah.
I would just need to borrow somebody's password and I'd be all set. But they just kept affirming to me that I wasn't coming back to Earth as a punishment. I was coming back to Earth because I utilized my free will to sign up for the mission and that I had to complete the task. And that they told me I had been training for lifetimes, for this particular lifetime, and that they weren't going to let me miss my chance to be present for the transformation of consciousness. There's so many of us here right now because this is the most exciting time to be on Earth. And I just was super defiant. And I was like, no, I absolutely will not go back. You guys don't tell us what Earth is like. It's really much more challenging than I thought it was going to be. And they just kind of laughed. And they were like, you say that every time. Every time you come back home, you're always proclaiming that we don't tell you. But you know, you choose to forget so that you can remember. And this is your remembrance right now. And I said, well, I'm not going back into her. And I could see my body outside myself, and I was naked and blasted out on my bathroom floor. I said, she's glitched, she's broken, she's a mess. Like, I'm not going to put my divinity, I'm not going to put my divine soul back into that horror show. And they said, well, if you don't go back into her, then we're going to show you the baby that you'll be born into. And my awareness went over to this other scene, and it looked just like a video game, like when you pick an avatar for a video game. A little kind of 3D matrix looking like coded baby comes up. She's slowly rotating 360 degrees. Her stats pop up next to her. And they showed me everything about her. They showed me her whole life plan, how it was going to play out. And her life was going to be even more challenging than the life that I was just coming from. And so I just thought, oh, no way. If really my only choices are to start over from zero in a little baby body where I'm totally helpless, or just go back into that glitched, broken body that I just came from, I'm just going to go back into her. And when I was coming, as soon as I made that decision, my awareness started to sift back into my body. And the beings of light said to me that the first part of my life was boot camp. And that's why it felt so hard. Because nobody likes boot camp. There's like a bald guy screaming in your face. It's raining sideways. It's freezing. You're doing 1,000 push-ups in the mud. But the second part of my life was going to be carrying out my divine mission. And I was going to have soulmates and kindred spirits and teachers and mentors and communities. And I was going to be living in spiritual awareness. And my life was going to look so different. And all I had to do was just trust them. And I was like, I do not trust you guys. I have zero reasons to trust you. Whatever, I'm out. And then I woke up in my body on my bathroom floor, and I just kind of sat up and shook my head. And I was like, whoa, that was fucking crazy. I will never be that high again. I was so high that I thought I was talking to God. I was so high that I thought I planned my life. That's hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just went back to living my life as I always had been, prostituting myself, using drugs, lying, stealing, manipulating. It took me months to figure out that was a real experience that happened to me. I'll pause.
No, that's yeah. I mean, God, I don't even know where I would have questions to begin with. Let me ask you this: when you had the experience that you said you thought you were dead, it sounds like you had a lot of conversation, like with different beings or entities. One of the things that people talk about is what is it that there were past relatives and different things. Did you have anybody that you felt was like, hey, I'm your uncle from the past, or I'm your great great grandmother?
Yeah, my dad was definitely there with me. I
Okay.
couldn't really feel my mom. I mean, I feel her now, but that's after years of integrating and practicing. I had a boyfriend who had passed away a couple of years before my experience. He was there. I felt, like I said, I felt kind of every masculine energy. So, like, my grandfather who had died was there. My uncle who had died was there. It just felt like this very, like the divine masculine was calling to me. And so
Hmm.
that was all of the people that I was seeing there or feeling there, was just all of that masculine energy.
Yeah, that's really tremendous. I've heard you talk about this before. I know. So you had this experience, and you came out of it, and like you said, you kind of slipped back into the old ways. It was sort of I don't know what that was. Then things started happening. So when did you start to, what happened in the way of like either synchronicities or just different things where you went, okay, there was something to this and I need to clean up, I need to fix things.
Yeah, I really didn't realize, but I definitely noticed that my life was changing without my permission. So, I was still using drugs, but then one day I ran out and I start calling up all my dealers to try to pick up from them. And every single one of my dealers told me to lose their number. They blocked me and they told me that they found Jesus and that they were going to live a different life. And I'm talking like 10 different guys.
Right,
And
right, yeah.
these are people that I had relationships with for 10 years. These were
Hmm.
my dealers. And these guys didn't know each other, so it wasn't like they all went to some kind of church and like had some
Right,
sort of
exactly, yeah.
revelation. It was 10 totally separate random people from all different parts of the city who did not know each other, and they all said the same sentence to me. And I was like, okay, this is so weird.
Hmm.
And then I started to go through withdrawal, and it was, I mean, withdrawal from, I was on heroin, so it's insanely painful. People run
Yes.
away from the week of pain of withdrawal for years, decades of
Hmm.
their life, because that's how painful it is. That you
Yeah.
would, I just kept chasing, and not getting high because I wasn't getting high anymore. I was just trying to not get sick. But I had no way to get drugs. So I started going through withdrawal and I experienced a spontaneous healing in the middle of heroin withdrawal. I was on day 3 of withdrawal and I really thought that I was going to kill myself because I was in so much pain. But I realized, oh man, I can't even get out of this bed and figure out a way to kill myself because I'm in that much pain. Like
Right.
everything on me hurt. My blood hurt. My
Mm.
fingernails hurt from holding on for dear life. My eyelashes hurt. Everything on me was aching, screaming in pain. And then I heard this voice and it told me that I could request what I wanted fixed. And so I was in the throes of desperation. So I was willing to believe any random strange voice in my head. And so I said, okay, I want to no longer be physically dependent on heroin. Help me. And they told me to count backwards from 10. And as I did, these 2 little men appeared in my mind's eye. And they were wearing these white lab coats and they had these bulbous noses and they had little lawnmowers. and and I just watched them in my mind's eye, and then all of a sudden they started to take off in separate directions. And they walked through every crevice of my mind. And as they did, they plowed, and it felt like these intense hot tingles were starting to take over the whole crown of my head. And then once they were finished mapping out my mind, it felt like someone drew X's across my head. I have no idea what that means. I don't know if it's representative of the crown of thorns, if it's some kind of psychic surgery, if somebody was scanning
Yeah.
a spiritual barcode on my head, but it felt like it was so real, but there was nobody there. But it really did feel like someone's hand was like taking their thumb and going across my head.
Hmm.
And then there was it felt like a plunger went on the crown of my head. And as it plunged down and came back up, there was this bright white flash. And in that moment, I was healed instantaneously out of day 3 of withdrawal. I mean, like literally moments before, I was throwing up all over myself, sick from both ends, welcoming death. My blood felt like lava. Everything ached. And then all of a sudden, I was totally fine. Like nothing had ever happened. None of that had ever existed. And I just started crying out. And I was crying out to a God that I did not believe in. And I was saying, how could this be happening to me? I don't believe in this. I don't believe in you. Why would you pick me? I am so unworthy of this. I am so unworthy of this. And I just kept chanting that over and over and over again. And then I heard them chant back to me and they said, but you're worthy of all the love in the universe. You're worthy of all the love in the universe. And after that experience, I literally thought that I was Jesus. I was
Hmm.
like, I'm going to save all of humanity. This is so amazing. I can heal.
Yeah.
I can heal other people. I can heal myself. Oh my God, how cool. And I like tried to open up my home to every homeless drug addict that I could find. I was like, all you have to do is just lay on my bed and the little men will come with their lawnmowers and they'll cure you. And it was so crazy and so super chaotic. But that was really the moment when I realized, oh shit, I think something did actually happen to me. But I didn't know what it was. I just thought that I died. I just thought that
Yeah.
I died and I was stuck in some kind of purgatory. But in that moment of that healing, I thought, oh, okay, I think I'm worthy enough to go to heaven. So what do I have to do to get to heaven? And God obviously wanted me to stop using drugs. So I knew that that
Mhm.
was one of the things I had to do.
And this, I think I may know the answer to this beforehand. How did it go with trying to welcome people in and kind of get them to have a similar experience? Or yeah, I'm guessing the guys
No,
didn't show up, but did some people go to rehab? Did that kind of
no.
stuff
Oh
happen?
my God.
Okay.
No, I still have never been able to do that.
Yeah.
No, that did not happen. But I think the real message from it, well, obviously it was delusions of grandeur, right? Like I went from I'm a piece of shit to, oh my God, I'm the Messiah. And that's what
Right.
addiction is. Addiction is you're always on one or the other end of the spectrum.
Hmm.
And recovery or living a life led by service and spirit is about temperance. It's about being in the middle. So I just went from like rock bottom and then I shot all the way off into a state of spiritual superiority. But no, people were so scared that I was going to murder them, right? Imagine
Right.
some crazy chick who's like all wild eyed and like nuts. And she's like, God's inside my house. Come meet God. It's like
Yeah.
totally insane.
So once kind of the stage, I guess we'll call it the grandeur part wore off there. So then how did you kind of take that and get it focused into doing what you wanted to do and kind of having a mission?
Yeah, it took me like literal years to, first of all, it took me a very long time to accept the fact that I wasn't going back to heaven. So once I started to piece everything together and I affirmed and I accepted, okay, I had a real experience that happened. I had a real experience with God, and I continue to have experiences with God, just these overwhelming moments of ecstatic bliss, gratitude, joy, just really feeling that I am a spark of the divine, my connection to spirit. And so, as these experiences kept happening to me throughout my integration, I really honestly just thought that the whole point of this was to get back to heaven. And so I thought, okay, well, I have to stop using drugs. God wants me to stop using drugs. So, through a bunch of beautiful signs and synchronicities, I found myself in a long term rehab. And every time that I would make it to a recovery milestone, I would cry out to God. I'd be like, hey, God, I haven't used drugs in 7 days. Can you believe your girl down here? Crazy, right? Like 20
Hmm.
years, I had never made it past. One time I had 100 days in
Yeah.
sobriety, once in 20 years of using. But like 7 days was a huge deal for me. And I thought that that was going to be enough to get me back to heaven. So it wasn't. I heard no response. And then, I made it to 90 days. I made it to 9 months. I made it to a year. And I still kept crying out to the divine, when are you guys coming to get me? You told me that I
Hmm.
had to stop using drugs. I stopped using drugs. I want to come home.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't really explained to me. Like nobody came down and said, girl, you're staying on earth. I had to find a way to create heaven on earth because I kept trying to go back to heaven, like it was some other place. It's not.
Hmm.
Heaven is a state of mind. So I had to start to cultivate what heaven feels like in my mind, in my environment. And so that's what I started to do. It took me a really long time to find balance. I mean, I'm still working. I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it now. I have my moods. I really embrace the human at this point. At first, after the experience, I just wanted to be in spirit. I wanted to be a healer. I wanted to be in the light. I didn't want to acknowledge my past life at all. I totally rejected and abandoned that version of myself, but she was fucking just waiting in the wings. So
Hmm.
as integration continued to take place, she kept popping up, whether it was cravings to relapse, self sabotage, eating disorders, codependency, limerence, all of these other ways that the old version of me acted. She just kept rearing her head in my life. And it took me a very long time to figure out that I have to love her. I have to accept her. I still have a hard time. There's some aspects of her that is very hard for me to accept and love. But that's how I find balance, is by accepting the darkness, embracing the light, and being right there in the middle.
I've kind of experienced that same thing, and then having my own issues with that, and being a part of the recovery community, getting things together afterwards, all of that. When you talk about that old person, man, that is absolutely the truth. It is like you're walking down the hallway in high school, and you've got like people keep trying to smack the books out of your hand, and so
Mm,
your first thing is, I'm gonna get angry. I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna hit this person that just smacked the books out of my hand. Well, that
wow.
doesn't work. You're punching thin air, dude. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like you said. You have to just go. You know what? That behavior kind of popped into my head. I just let it pass through. I don't. I'm not gonna get angry at that old behavior or that old personality that kind of keeps popping into things sometimes. Which personally, I think is one of the things that drags people down faster than anything else. Is that old feel sorry for yourself attitude,
Yep.
and whatever happened beforehand, you fall right back into it. But you have kept from doing that, and it sounds to me like as a person, you reach out to and you kind of actively try to help other people from having that kind of relapsey attitude and things like that. Do you what's the word I'm looking for? Do you do like actual like classes teaching people? Do you take people on as kind of like I wasn't sure if you do like actual like coaching, like self-help coaching or anything like that now?
Yeah, I do. I am a coach. I mean, I have like a lot of different hats that I wear when it comes to this stuff. And I don't want to pretend like I haven't relapsed on behaviors. I absolutely have.
Hmm.
I have just never used drugs again, which is
Yeah.
a miracle. But like, please, I have so many defects of character that just love to be like my main personality points at
Yeah.
times. But I'm a member of 12-step fellowship. I sponsor other women. I allow myself to be sponsored by a wonderful woman. So that's a huge part of my recovery journey. I work in the field of substance use disorder. I have a day job that I go to, and I love helping people in need. I love being of service. Service is my new drug. And then I work as a transformation coach as well, and I walk people through shadow work, which is reprogramming limiting beliefs and old programming, old wiring that has no purpose in people's lives moving forward. I love your analogy with the high school hallway. I think that's such a good one. For me, it's about being curious and compassionate. Why? Why is this behavior popping up right now? What is it trying
Mhm.
to show me? It's not that I don't make messes in my life. I absolutely do. I'm just a little bit better at cleaning them up than I used to be. I still
Right.
make huge messes, but now I can grab my broom and dustpan much faster than it would take me before.
Yeah, that's a really excellent way of looking at that. Um, let's see here. So we're in 2025 and we're going into 2026. And some of the stuff that you've been talking about on this with, awakenings and things, to somebody else who's never seen anything about this before, doesn't know anything that's going on, I'll just kind of put it out there. There's a large amount of prediction in the world of anybody interested in anything spiritual that some kind of evolutionary type of thing is happening or changing or taking place. And now a lot of this, we also have another phenomenon that seems to be coinciding with lots and lots of people awakening to this kind of like, I don't need to be religious. In fact, I can actually reject religion and still be spiritual and still find God. I don't have to do this old formula that everybody else was working with. Um, some of the I was going to say what I was going to the other part of this phenomenon that seems to be happening is everybody lots and lots of stuff appearing in the skies and appearing all over the place. Chris Bledsoe, if you know who that is, he wrote a book called UFO of God. He had a miraculous healing experience with these orb type of things, and even he says like I don't really know what's going on. Like I have some ideas about stuff, but I don't really know. Do you have any kind of thoughts you want to share about just what you think is going on in our paradigm of reality right now?
Yeah. I believe that we are inside of a dream. So, in my experience, because I had never read a book, humble brag, but I was not an educated person before my experience happened. I was a crackhead prostitute.
Mhm.
So, in my experience, everything came through in pop culture because I don't know anything about philosophy or
Yeah.
awakening. So, in my experience, they showed me the Matrix, Inception, what dreams may come, and a movie called Risk Cutters: A Love Story. And those were like these four main components of what the Earth experience is. That like this is how they came through to me. So Inception really rings to me, right? In the movie Inception, it's about these dream architects, and they go into people's deep subconscious minds, and they plant seeds to make them do certain things, and that you can go deeper and deeper into layers of the dream. So what I believe is happening is that we are inside of a deep layer in the dream. And for our linear minds, let's say that we're in layer number 3, like the third dimension, right? So we're down here in 3, and there's, let's say, 12 to get to heaven. So we're making our way up this dreamscape, and some of us are getting kicked out of the 3D layer, and then we're there to kind of like help, maybe like, you know, get other people to jump into a different layer of the dream as well. Now, these are stories. All I know that is 100% true, at least for myself, is that I'm not a human. I'm a spirit, but I think that I'm a human. I believe that I am sleeping somewhere with a VR headset on my light body, and I fell asleep and I forgot that I'm inside the dream. And so I think that all of this is very real. And there's lots of things that are convincing to make you think that it's real. So what I think is happening right now is that we're all waking up to other layers of the dream. And in these new layers, there's like much cooler shit, right? Like there's aliens, there's fucking shit in the skies, there's spiritual awakening. People are more exposed to plant medicine. They're breaking out of the old paradigms. They're moving into a new, quote unquote, higher aspect of reality. And again, this is a story, and you can subscribe to any story that you want. You can think that we're on a prison planet, that we're trapped. You can think that the fucking apocalypse is going to happen and the whole world's going to catch on fire. You get to design your dream. It's a dream. So what I think is happening right now is we're being confronted with a lot of distraction. So like if I'm spending all day going down rabbit holes about UFOs, whether it's something spiritual or not, if I'm spending all day going down rabbit holes, who am I serving? Nobody. I mean, maybe I'm getting some information that I can use to serve people later, but I really do think that some of these things are sort of, they're traps inside of the dream. Like I used to be so gung-ho about the Great Awakening. I was like, holy shit, I'm a soldier. Like, I'm here for it. This is incredible. And then I realized I was not present in any moment because I was always just thinking like, oh, well, when we're in 5D, this is going to be so different. But like, how does that serve me in this moment? I need to stay present. Heaven is in the present moment. So my awareness has shifted a little bit around it. I think it's still very cool to conceptualize and be interested in things that aren't the norm. But at the same time, I also think that it's really important to get onto your soul's mission. You know, start doing things that you feel passionate about. Follow your highest excitement. If doing research about shit is your highest excitement, then yes, continue to do it. But I also think that being of service is such a huge part of whatever shift that we're going to be in, that it's very important to find some way to turn your passion into service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that I've heard people talk about before, Alex Ferrari, so yes, I can't think of the name of his show right now, but I heard
Next
him
Level
say,
Soul.
yes, Next Level Soul. So he was talking about somebody else did, and it was a thought that I even had at one point in time. We're all like, you know, let's say that I found this magic book, and the magic book tells me everything, right? And then I lose the book. I don't have it anymore. Maybe I read it and I memorized it. Great. Okay, now what? I'm going to go out and tell everybody about the magic book I found, and they're going to go, that's great, Ryan, thanks. I got to go to work. I'll talk to you later. You know,
Right.
that's basically what's going to happen. I could even write the magic book, and unless there's some kind of divine intervention that tells people, go and buy this like it's on Oprah's book club, it's one more book from a spiritual author who says, I know the stuff that everybody needs to know. Doesn't help anybody. Nobody got helped. You didn't feed anybody. So, yeah, no, I think it's great to be constantly trying to find, you know, the different, I don't know, facts versus pieces of disinformation that are out there. But yeah, the time I see people sometimes spend obsessing over this kind of thing, and then I'll say like, so you read like 8 books on meditation. That's cool. How many hours a day do you meditate? Well, I'm reading, so I don't really have time to meditate. Great, awesome. What did you get out of it? You spent $80 on books. That's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to hear. You have to mix that. I just to kind of throw it in there. There's a part, and I'm not a mainstream Christian person by any means. I don't know what in the Bible actually happened or didn't, but there's a scene when like Jesus is handed a coin. It's got Caesar on it, and somebody asks him something about how proper living, and he's like, "Well, yeah, you're half of you has to be on the spiritual side, but you live in a society and you have to pay taxes. You have roads and streets and things. You have to have a job to feed yourself. So unfortunately, we are living in a paradigm right now where we still have material needs that we have to, go to work and do things and take care of our family. You can't just sit there all day, every day. If you want to do that, you need to go join a monastery or a Buddhist monk place or something like that. And
I think that's really interesting. But another thing that Jesus said was that the birds don't worry.
mhm,
So if you have a mission placed inside your heart, you don't have to sit behind a desk staring at a computer for 8 hours a day to
right,
support a family that you don't like and pay bills that you don't really need. And I think that that's kind of what the shift has been happening. Like ever since the pandemic, I feel like people were confronted with, why do I work at this place?
right,
I don't even like this. And so that's
right.
why you see so many more podcasters, so many more people writing books. And even if the information isn't reaching a ton of people, I do think that you're probably fulfilling some part of your own soul's mission, which is
Mhm.
really all that matters. And yes, we live in a society and like there's certain things about the society, but you don't have to subscribe to the same belief systems that somebody instilled inside of you, right? Like,
Right,
we all have these limiting beliefs about money. Like I have to work really hard to make money or money is really hard to get. And that's somebody else's belief. That's
right.
society's
Yeah.
belief. That's the game's belief.
You took it on because you heard your parents say it over and over and over again, and now
Exactly.
you think The Secret. There was an actual part of The Secret when that movie came out where they're like, I don't know. Some guy was talking. He's like, "Yeah, my dad was always like, money's the root of all evil, and it's hard to get, and we'll never make money." He goes, "So that was my attitude, and it never happened for me." And then one day, I just started saying to myself, "You know what? I bet money can come easily and freely to me." All of a sudden, he said, people started saying yes when I was working in sales. It just happened, and your belief system. It doesn't change things instantaneously where you're going to like stare at a firecracker and make it explode. That's not how it works. But you can sprinkle lead dust on the scales of how you want a decision to kind of go in your direction, I think.
Totally. I love that. Yes, it's so true. And rewiring old limiting beliefs
Oh,
takes
yeah.
consistency and discipline. So it's not about perfection. You're probably not going to be perfect at it. I mean, there's no such thing. Perfection is just addiction to
Yeah.
control. It's totally
Yeah.
impossible. But if you just consistently show up for it, then I promise you shifts will happen. The law of attraction has been such a huge part of my own awakening journey. I had no idea. I
Mhm.
had no idea that we are all consciously manifesting our reality. But I see it in hindsight. Before, my thoughts were, I'm drug addicted. I have to do depraved things to make money. I hate my life. I'm always broke. I want to kill myself. And that was my reality for years and years and years because that is the belief system that I chose to keep going into. And then I get clean and I get a little bit of clarity in my head and I start to design a new belief system. I'm an abundant individual. I love my life. I'm surrounded by spiritual community. Good things come my way. And that just started to happen. And again, it wasn't because I made a wish on a star. It was because I kept thinking it over and over and over again until I started to feel it. And once I
Mhm.
started to feel it, I started to act like it. And once I started to act like it, it became my routine and then it became my life.
Yeah. Can I go back to this for a second? You were talking about the reprogramming, the thought reprogramming. You had a specific term for it that you were using, and I think if you want to talk about more of that, teaching people how to reprogram themselves, so that it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to do better, but the guy keeps coming into your head, knocking the books out of your hand. So what's the reprogramming training that you've done? to help people in
Yeah,
that
so I
experience?
have like a little four-step method when it comes to limiting beliefs. And a lot of us have a lot of limiting beliefs. So it's going to
Hmm.
take some time to get it all down. I truly believe in the art of writing shit down. Our
Yep.
hands are connected to our throat chakra. This is our chakra of truth. So when you write shit down, it literally creates magic in your life. The first thing I do is I write down the limiting belief. So maybe it's, I'm not good enough. And then I find out where that belief came from. Why do I think that I'm not good enough? Whose voice is it that's telling me that I'm not good enough? And I hear a teacher from when I was in first grade, and she says to me, "You don't have the right answer. I'm not going to call on you anymore." Right? So
Hmm.
now this belief gets deeply ingrained inside of me, and I always think that I'm not enough. Then I have to call in my receipts. What are the receipts in my life that show me that that belief is not actually true? And then I can say, like, well, I helped this person get into detox. I helped this person get a New York State ID. I helped this person find a house. I helped this person do X, Y, and Z. All of those things to me equal being good enough. I was good enough to help all these other people. Like, I must have some goodness inside of me. And then I figure out what my new belief is. And so my new belief is I am worthy, I am
Hmm.
good. And so I have to continually do that. Every time that thought comes up and I hear that other voice that says something negative, I have to just like, I do that whole four-step process over and over and over again just to break myself out of the cycle. So it takes 21 days to reroute a neural pathway. The neural
Hmm.
pathways are where our thoughts are always going. It's like this Formula One racetrack. It's just the same bullshit over and
Yeah.
over and over again for infinity.
Broken record.
So like I can't just do it for 2 days. I can't just think I am good and think about where the belief came from and rerouting it. I have to do it over and over. I have to do it for at least 21 days, and then I got to do it for 21 more days, and I got to do it for 21 more days after that. But I really only have to focus on today. So if I can do it just for today, I'm doing a great job. And that's really all that I can do. But that's one of my favorite ways to start to reroute a belief system is just to look for the real truth in it. I love calling in my receipts.
Cool. I like that. That's really simple and easy to do too. I know there's some real complicated ways out there. I hear we'll talk about all the time, but no,
Yeah, you
I
could
like that.
also
And
die and go to heaven and have your whole
yeah,
brain zapped open.
yeah, I have yet to figure out a way to safely do that on a repeatable,
Yeah, I do not
laboratory type
recommend
of
or
thing.
anything, but
Oh man, if we could, what is that movie where they give themselves they make themselves go into
oh yeah,
cardiac
flatliners, yeah.
flatliners. Yes, that's it. God, if you could just do that with everybody, that would be great. Fly around the
Oh my
city,
God,
nobody would. Yeah.
yes.
Let me ask you this. I know you had said when you had those experiences first, the supernatural stuff. You said you didn't really have a frame of reference for it at the time, just because of what your past had been. Now, being somebody who's had more time to kind of, I don't know, go through and check out what the different traditions and everything say. Um, do you recognize anything from we'll call it like Hindu tradition, like something all the way from that you saw and you were like, oh wow, I saw that in my experience, but I had never heard about it up until this point when now I'm seeing it in this book.
Yeah, definitely. Think that's a really cool question. I've never been asked that before. Thank you for that. Um, yes, this is the way that it all came through for me. In Hinduism, it's called Leela, the cosmic play. In Buddhism, it's called Maya, the great illusion. But that was what I experienced. When I woke up in heaven, it felt like I literally woke up from a dream, a sleeping dream.
Hmm.
Like when you go to sleep at night and then you wake up
Right.
in the morning and you're like, fuck, that was such a weird dream. I think my parents committed suicide. Wow, that's nuts. That's literally the only thing that I could grab out of
Yeah.
35 years of life at that point in time. All I could remember was one memory that my parents killed themselves, obviously deeply traumatic. But when I started to just throw myself into all these spiritual texts, I realized that the way that I was perceiving them anyway was that they're all trying to tell me the same thing, that this world is an illusion and that I don't have to take it so seriously. A
Right.
Course in Miracles really helped me with that as well. A Course in Miracles is a spiritual text. It's a channeled message from Jesus. It's a mind training program. And when I read A Course in Miracles, it was the closest thing to my spiritual experience that I had found as of then. And still to this day, the closest thing. And one of the things inside of A Course in Miracles that made me feel like it really understood my experience was there's a section on the final judgment. And Jesus shares that the final judgment will come to all, and that the final judgment is that only of grace. And there's no such thing as condemnation. And so I know this to be a fact from my spiritual experience, because an atheist, drug addicted prostitute was not condemned to something terrible. And so this book, it just proclaimed that completely. And I thought, okay, this has spiritual truth inside of it, because it feels so right to me to know that there's no such thing as judgment.
Yeah. You understand something sad? That's like the one book I haven't read. I've never read A Course in Miracles. I have every time I'm going to buy it and read it, it's like, well, now I've got this thing for work and I have to do this thing, and then I forget it. So I'm gonna go ahead and order it when we get off of this. Just like
Yes, it's this
sitting
beautiful
on my
book right
desk
behind
a
me.
day at a time, just one page a day. I'll just go through it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's a huge, gigantic book. I'll do a
oh
little
yeah, yeah.
promo. I'm
It's a
not sponsored
textbook.
by
It's
Jesus
a
to
course
promote this
textbook.
book. Yeah, it's huge. It's like this is like 1,300 pages,
Hmm.
but there's a workbook inside of it, and it's right in the middle of this big text. So like, there's 3 sections to it, and if you just start with the workbook, you're gonna do great. I mean, you could get to the text when you get to it, and it reads
Okay.
like stereo instructions again, because it is a mind training program. It's not
Right.
a novel, and it's not written from a human. It's written
Yeah.
from a Christ consciousness. So it is like very dense and challenging to understand. I host a Course in Miracles study group once a week, through my community, The Wheel. We're a spiritual community, and we have different virtual and in-person events, and we host retreats. And our Course in Miracles study group is so empowering, because a lot of people read this book and they're so confused, myself included, so unbelievably confused. And then we all just get to kind of support each other and act as these teachers of God, which is what A Course in
Mhm.
Miracles tells us that we all are.
That is really awesome. I like that a lot. Um, I want to be conscious of your time here because I know we would make a hard stop. What kind of, in closing, is there just a kind of any thoughts, any kind of information you want to leave with anybody who's watching, especially anybody who finds themselves in any kind of situation where let's face it, you need help and you're not getting it for yourself, okay? So listen.
Yeah, it's very challenging to ask for help, but it's the only way to do it. So, in the beginning of time, we were lifted up by tribe. We all had tribes of people that we were a part of, because if we didn't, we would get eaten by a tiger.
Right.
The tigers have changed, but the theory around needing people has not. The tigers now are anxiety, depression, isolation, seclusion. So that's the new predator to our
Mm.
species. And we still need people to lift us up. And for me, community has been such a huge part of my awakening process. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's actually pretty cringe and fucking gross to, as a
Hmm.
grown woman, to be like, somebody please help me. Because,
Right.
my
Yeah.
brain tells me that I should have my shit together, but I
Right.
don't. And it's okay to not have your shit together. None of us do. No,
Hmm.
none of us have it together. We're all just doing the best that we can. So my thought would be, please ask for help. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to connect you to some community. If I can't help you directly, I would love to shepherd you to a community that maybe can be of use to you. And then the other thing that I'll just say in closing is that you were born not by accident. You are
Hmm.
here on purpose because you have a mission to fulfill. So stop playing it small. You're here to be big, bad, and bold. You used to be a sperm inside of a testicle. Then you were cooked inside of a human body, and then you were shit out of a vagina. The chances of your existence are a fucking miracle. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. It really is a dream. It's a hard concept to wrap your mind around unless you're really willing. But I walk around every day like, wow, this is the fucking weirdest experience I'll ever have. You know, being on Earth is so bizarre. But I also don't walk through it with any fear because there's really
Right.
nothing to be
Yeah.
scared of. You're in a video game. Like, as soon as you take off your VR headset, you're going to be back home.
Yeah, I wish we had more time. I'd love to get into more of that because there's these multiple theories of, like you said, some people viewing this sort of like idea of a council or other things in between us and source, kind of having
Right.
intelligences, and oh, it's a prison planet. No, they're totally on our side, and they're kind of not on anybody's side. They just are a
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of this experience, which kind of that's where I fall into. But yeah, I wish
You know what?
we
It
had more
can, but it
time.
can be
Yeah.
both. The thing is that
Oh yeah,
whatever
yeah,
you think it is what it is, because that's how the
yeah.
law of attraction works. So the whole world is just a giant echo chamber. If
Hmm.
I scream out, "I'm trapped on a prison planet," I will find nothing but evidence that I am trapped on a prison
Yeah.
planet. But if I say, "I'm trapped inside of a fun video game where God wants me to live my biggest, baddest, boldest life," then I will find proof of that. So you just have to decide, what reality do you want to live in? And you
Right.
can't be distracted by the outside world. I reduce my ability to be of service to others when I focus on the suffering of 8 billion people.
Right.
I'm here to play my game, not in a selfish way. I still do acts of service, but there's nothing that I can do about the greater illusion. The only thing that
Right.
I can
Yeah.
focus on is my current reality. And so
Yeah.
that for me is one of the key components as well for living a fulfilled life.
Yeah, I can't feel sad enough to feed anybody else out there on
Yes.
Thanksgiving. However, if I let myself be dragged down by that feeling on a constant basis, somehow that's just going to generate more of the same thing. I don't exactly know how, but it just will. It just works that way.
Yes.
If instead I'm celebrating with my family and I can say, oh, you know what? Here's how much I was able to do for other people, and that's the most I can do. I can't do any more than that. That's it. That's all that anyone can possibly ask of you, or that you can ask
Totally.
of yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. Such a great conversation, Ryan. Thank you so
Yep,
much for this
absolutely.
space.
All right, awesome. Have a wonderful day, Betty, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one.
Yes.
Bye.